The alarm rang through the mining station at 3 in the morning. Captain Junho jumped out of his bed and grabbed his uniform. He had been working on Vertex 7 for 2 years now, and emergency alarms were not uncommon. Pirates liked to attack remote stations like this one. But something felt different about this alarm. Junho ran to the control room where his team was already waiting. Tyke, his second-in-command, pointed at the screen. A small ship had crashed on the asteroid surface about 5 kilometers from the station. The ship was tiny, barely bigger than a cargo container. Smoke rose from the crash site. "Should we check it out?" Tyke asked. Junho looked at the readings. The ship was giving off strange signals. It was definitely not human technology. He made his decision quickly. They would go and investigate. If someone needed help, they would provide it. That was the right thing to do. 20 minutes later, Junho and 3 team members reached the crash site in their rover. The small ship was damaged badly. Parts of it were still glowing hot. Junho approached carefully with his weapon ready. You never knew what you might find in space. The ship door opened suddenly. Junho raised his weapon but stopped when he saw what came out. Small figures emerged from the smoke. They were aliens, but not like any aliens humans had met before. They stood only about 60 centimeters tall. Their skin had soft, glowing patterns that changed colors. Their eyes were large and showed clear fear. One of the small aliens stepped forward. She wore robes that shimmered with light. She held up her tiny hands to show she had no weapons. Junho lowered his gun. These people were not a threat. They were refugees running from something. The alien woman pulled out a small device and pressed some buttons. A mechanical voice spoke in basic English. The translation was rough but clear enough. Her name was Nari. She was the leader of her people, the Pilari. They were running from hunters called the Krovik. The Krovik wanted to capture the Pilari and sell them as slaves. The Krovik ship would arrive soon. Junho felt anger rise in his chest. He hated slavers. He had fought against human traffickers back on Earth during his military service. He would not let these small people be captured, but he knew his orders. The mining company wanted the station to stay neutral in all conflicts. Getting involved could cost him his job. He looked at Nari and the other Pilari. There were about 30 of them. They looked exhausted and scared. Children clung to their parents. An old Pilari man was injured and bleeding. These people had nowhere else to go. Junho made his choice. Orders be damned. He would help them. "We will protect you," he said clearly. The translation device picked up his words. Nari's eyes filled with tears. The other Pilari made sounds of relief. Junho moved fast. He ordered his team to take the Pilari back to the station. He called the control room and told them to prepare for combat. The mining station had some defensive weapons, but they were not strong. Junho needed to think smart. Back at the station, Junho gathered his small security team. There were only 12 of them. Against a Krovik warship, they had almost no chance. But Junho had an idea. The mining station had powerful drilling equipment and explosives. They could use those as weapons. He sent Take to set up explosive charges around the landing area. They would turn the asteroid surface into a trap. Meanwhile, Junho programmed the mining lasers to target incoming ships. It was not much, but it might work. The Pilari were taken to the safest part of the station. A young Pilari woman stayed behind in the control room. She introduced herself through the translator as Mina, Nari's sister. She wanted to help. She understood technology and could assist with the station systems. Junho was surprised by her bravery. Despite being so small and fragile-looking, she showed no fear. She worked quickly at a control panel, her tiny fingers moving fast. She was clearly intelligent and skilled. 2 hours later, the Krovik ship arrived. It was big and covered with weapons. The Krovik sent a message demanding that the Pilari be handed over immediately. They threatened to destroy the station if Junho refused. Junho sent back a simple reply. No. The Krovik ship opened fire. Junho had expected this. He gave the order and his team responded. The mining lasers fired at full power, hitting the Krovik ship's shields. At the same time, Tyke triggered the explosive charges. The asteroid surface erupted in massive explosions. The Krovik ship was caught off guard. They had expected an easy fight. They had not expected a mining station to fight back so effectively. Junho used every trick he had learned in the military. He made the Krovik think the station was more heavily armed than it really was. Mina proved to be incredibly helpful. She managed to hack into the Krovik ship's systems using Pilari technology. She caused their weapons to malfunction at critical moments. Working together, the human and Pilari teams created chaos for their enemy. The battle lasted 30 minutes. Finally, the Krovik ship's engines were damaged by a lucky shot from the mining laser. The ship tried to retreat, but more explosions damaged it further. The Krovik had no choice. They fled, their ship trailing smoke and sparks. Junho could hardly believe it. They had won. His small team had defeated a warship. Everyone in the control room cheered. Mina smiled up at him, her face glowing with patterns of joy. When things calmed down, the Pilari came out from their shelter. Chief Nari approached Junho with tears in her large eyes. Through the translator, she spoke words of deep gratitude. She said that Junho had saved not just lives, but the future of her people. The Pilari would never forget this debt. Junho felt embarrassed by her thanks. He had only done what was right. But Nari explained that in Pilari culture, a life debt was serious. It was sacred. When someone saved your life, that created a bond that must be honored. As Junho looked at the grateful Pilari people, he realized his life had just changed forever. He had made a decision based on what was right, not what was safe. Now he would face consequences from the mining company. But when he looked at the living people he had saved, especially at Mina's grateful smile, he knew he would make the same choice again. That night, as the station began repairs, Junho stood on the observation deck. Mina found him there. She was so small that she barely reached his knee. But when she looked up at him with those large, intelligent eyes, he did not see her size. He saw courage and kindness. She thanked him again, her voice soft through the translator. Junho told her she was welcome. He asked if all Pilari were as brave as her. Mina laughed, a sound like tiny bells. She said that her people had learned to be brave because they had to be. When you were small in a big universe, you either became brave or you did not survive. As they talked, Junho found himself fascinated by this small alien woman. She was different from anyone he had ever met, and though he did not know it yet, this chance meeting would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Junho barely slept that night. His mind kept returning to Nari's proposal. Marriage to Mina seemed impossible, yet the more he thought about it, the more complicated his feelings became. He could not simply dismiss the idea. Something inside him wanted to consider it seriously. The next morning, Junho found Taik in the cafeteria. He needed to talk to someone he trusted. Taik listened to the whole story while drinking his coffee. When Junho finished, Taik was quiet for a long moment. "So what are you going to do?" Taik finally asked. "I don't know," Junho admitted. "The whole thing is crazy." "She's so small. She's an alien. How would it even work?" Taik shrugged. "Those are practical problems. But what about your feelings? Do you care about Mina?" Junho thought about it honestly. Yes, he cared about Mina. She made him happy. He respected her intelligence and admired her courage. When he imagined not seeing her anymore, the thought made him sad. But was that enough for marriage? "Maybe you should talk to Mina directly," Taik suggested. "Find out what she really thinks about all this." It was good advice. Junho needed to hear from Mina herself. That afternoon, he sent her a message asking to meet. She agreed immediately. They met in the observation deck, their usual spot. Mina arrived looking nervous. Her skin patterns flickered with uncertainty. Junho knelt down so they could talk at eye level. Even kneeling, he was still much taller than her, but it felt more comfortable this way. "Your sister told me about the proposal," Junho said gently. "I need to understand. Is this something you really want? Or is it just about tradition and debt?" Mina looked at him with those large, honest eyes. She spoke through her translator, but her emotions were clear. She explained that yes, tradition and debt were part of it. But that was not all. She had been watching Junho since the day they met. She saw how he treated people with kindness. She saw his courage when he faced danger. She saw his gentle heart when he played with Pilari children who were scared. In Pilari culture, Mina continued, a bond was not just about physical attraction. It was about finding someone whose spirit matched yours, someone who shared your values, someone who made you want to be better. She believed Junho was such a person for her. "But I'm so different from you," Junho said. "I'm huge compared to you. I'm not even the same species. Don't those things matter?" Mina smiled softly. She reached out and touched Junho's hand. Her tiny hand could barely wrap around one of his fingers, but the touch felt right somehow. In my culture, Mina said, we have a saying. The size of the body does not measure the size of the heart. Yes, you are big and I am small, but our hearts can still beat together, if you are willing to try. Her words touched something deep inside Junho. He realized that his worries about size and species were surface concerns. The real question was simpler. Did he want Mina in his life? The answer came to him clearly. Yes, he did. I care about you, Junho said slowly, more than I realized until now. But marriage is a big step. Can we take time to get to know each other better first? I want to do this right. Mina's face brightened with joy. Her skin patterns glowed beautiful colors. She said that was exactly what she hoped for. She did not want to rush into a bond without building a real relationship first. The fact that Junho wanted to do things properly showed he was taking it seriously. They agreed to a formal courtship period. In human terms, they would date. In Polari terms, they would practice the bonding rituals. Either way, they would spend time together and learn if they truly fit as partners. When Junho told Nari about their decision, she looked pleased. She said that taking time was wise. A bond made in haste could break under pressure. A bond built slowly would last forever. She gave them her blessing to begin their courtship. News of the courtship spread quickly through the station. Reactions were mixed. Some humans thought it was romantic. Others thought it was strange. The Polari community was excited. They saw it as a sign that both species could truly unite. A few people made unkind jokes. Junho heard some of his crew members laughing about him dating someone so small. It hurt, but Junho tried to ignore it. What mattered was how he and Mina felt, not what others thought. Mina faced similar problems. Some Polari worried that she was making a mistake. Humans were so different, they said. The relationship could never work. But Mina stood firm. She told them that new things always seemed impossible until someone tried. The courtship began with simple activities. Junho and Mina had dinner together regularly. They had to figure out the logistics. Human tables and chairs were too tall for Mina. They ended up using custom furniture that worked for both of them. It was awkward at first, but they learned to adapt. They shared their histories with each other. Junho told Mina about growing up on Earth. He described mountains and oceans, things Mina had never seen. He talked about his family and why he left to work in space. Mina listened with fascination. Mina shared stories of her home world. She described forests that sang at night, trees that grew as tall as buildings, animals that glowed in the dark. Her world sounded magical to Junho. He felt sad knowing it had been destroyed by war. They discovered shared interests. Both loved learning about science and technology. Both enjoyed quiet evenings watching the stars. Both believed in helping others and standing up for what was right. These common values brought them closer together. One evening, Mina brought Junho to a Polari ceremony. It was a meditation ritual, where Polari connected with their inner light. Junho tried to participate. It was difficult at first. Human minds worked differently than Polari minds. But with Mina's gentle guidance, he began to understand. He felt a sense of peace he had never experienced before. In return, Junho taught Mina about human art and music. He played her old Earth songs. Some made her cry with their beauty. Others made her laugh with their silly lyrics. Music became a bridge between them, a language that needed no translation. After 2 months of courtship, Junho knew his answer. He loved Mina, not despite their differences, but because of how perfectly their differences fit together. She challenged him to think in new ways. She made him want to be better. She brought light into his life. One night, under the stars they both loved, Junho told Mina he was ready. He wanted to complete the bonding ceremony. He wanted her as his partner for life. Mina's eyes filled with tears of joy. Her whole body glowed bright with happiness. She said she was ready too. They held each other, the large human and the tiny Polari, and in that moment size meant nothing at all. The announcement was made the next day. Captain Junho and Mina would undergo the Kalana bonding ceremony. It would be the first ceremony of its kind between a human and a Polari. Both communities began preparing for the historic event. The impossible was about to become real. Preparing for the bonding ceremony took several weeks. Both communities worked together to plan an event that honored both cultures. The station buzzed with excitement. Even the people who had doubted the relationship began to get caught up in the preparations. Junho continued his normal duties as station commander, but now Mina worked beside him more often. They made a good team. When technical problems arose, they solved them together. Mina's knowledge of biotechnology combined with Junho's engineering skills created innovative solutions that neither could have found alone. One morning, alarms blared through the station. The life support system was failing. The air recyclers had stopped working. Without them, the station would run out of breathable air in 6 hours. Everyone panicked except Junho and Mina. They rushed to the engineering bay together. Junho examined the mechanical systems while Mina studied the biological filters. The problem was complex. A critical part had burned out, and they did not have a replacement. Normal repairs would take days. Mina had an idea. She could grow a biological replacement using Polari technology, but it would need to interface with human machinery, which was not designed for living components. Junho thought for a moment, then began sketching a design. If they built a special connector, the biological part might work. For the next 4 hours, they worked without stopping. Mina grew the biological filter faster than normal, pushing her abilities to the limit. Junho built the connector using every skill he had learned in 20 years of engineering. Taik and the other engineers helped where they could, but mostly they watched in amazement as the two partners worked in perfect harmony. With only 30 minutes of air remaining, they installed the hybrid system. Everyone held their breath as Junho activated it. The system hummed to life. The biological filter and mechanical systems worked together perfectly. Fresh air began flowing through the station again. The entire station erupted in cheers. Junho and Mina collapsed against each other, exhausted but happy. In that moment of crisis, they had proven something important. Their partnership was not just romantic. It had real practical value. Together they were stronger than apart. After that day, the remaining doubts about their relationship faded. People saw that Junho and Mina genuinely complemented each other. The human crew gained new respect for Polari abilities. The Polari saw that human determination and creativity were formidable. News of the incident spread beyond the station. A delegation arrived from Earth's colonial government. They wanted to investigate the human-Polari relationship. Some politicians were concerned that Junho was being manipulated or that the relationship would create diplomatic problems. The head of the delegation was a stern woman named Director Han. She interviewed Junho privately, asking hard questions. Was he being pressured into this bond? Did he understand the implications? Was he thinking clearly? Junho answered honestly. No one was forcing him. He had thought very carefully about his choice. He loved Mina and wanted to spend his life with her. The fact that she was an alien did not change his feelings. Director Han seemed skeptical. She asked to observe Junho and Mina together. For 3 days, she watched them work and spend time together. She saw how they communicated, how they solved problems, how they cared for each other. By the end, her skepticism had changed to acceptance. I came here expecting to find a disaster, Director Han told Junho on her last day. Instead, I found something remarkable. You two have built something genuine. I will report that this relationship is real and should be supported. The approval from Earth's government meant a lot. It made the relationship official in human law. More importantly, it showed other humans that cross-species bonds could work. Meanwhile, threats from outside continued. The Krovik had not forgotten their defeat. They sent threatening messages saying the Polari belonged to them. They claimed Junho was interfering in Krovik business. They promised revenge. Junho took the threat seriously. He increased security and prepared defenses. But he also knew that violence alone would not solve the problem. The Krovik would keep coming as long as they thought the Polari were weak and unprotected. Junho needed to show strength. He sent a message to the Krovik through official channels. The Polari were under human protection now. Any attack on them would be considered an attack on humanity. Earth might be new to galactic politics, but humans did not back down from bullies. The message worked. The Krovik stopped sending threats. They were not ready to start a war with humanity over a group of Polari refugees. For now, Vertex 7 was safe. As the bonding ceremony approached, Junho and Mina spent their evenings together in quiet conversation. They talked about everything. Their hopes for the future, their fears, their dreams. These conversations deepened their connection more than any ceremony could. One evening, Mina gave Junho a gift. It was a small pendant that glowed with soft light. She explained that it was alive, created from her own DNA. In Pilari culture, giving someone a living piece of yourself was the deepest sign of trust. It meant you were literally sharing your life with them. Junho was moved by the gesture. He held the tiny pendant carefully. It pulsed with a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. Mina's heartbeat. He put it on a chain and wore it around his neck. The pendant rested over his heart, warm against his skin. Junho wanted to give something equally meaningful in return. He had brought very few personal items from Earth when he came to Vertex 7. But he had one treasure, a ring that had belonged to his grandmother. It was simple metal with a small stone, nothing fancy, but it had been in his family for 5 generations. The ring was far too large for Mina's tiny finger. But Junho had an idea. He worked with a jeweler on the station to modify it. They created a small pendant from the ring's stone and attached it to a delicate chain. The chain was sized perfectly for Mina. When Junho gave it to Mina, he explained its history. 5 generations of his family had worn this ring. Now it would be worn by the person he loved most. Mina cried as she accepted it. She understood the honor he was giving her. They stood together in their favorite spot on the observation deck. Space stretched out before them, infinite and beautiful. Junho lifted Mina gently and held her at eye level. She was so light in his arms, delicate as a bird, but her spirit was strong, her courage fierce. "Are you sure about this?" Junho asked her quietly. "Once we complete the ceremony, there is no going back. We will be bonded for life." Mina smiled at him. Her skin glowed with colors that meant joy and certainty. She placed her tiny hand against his cheek. "I have never been more sure of anything," she said. "My heart chose you the day you stood between my people and danger. Every day since then, I have been more certain that you are my match. Size does not matter. Species does not matter. What matters is that we understand each other. We make each other better. We are partners." Junho felt tears in his eyes. How had he been lucky enough to find this person? This small alien who saw past his rough exterior to the man he tried to be. This brilliant mind who challenged him to think differently. This brave heart who faced the universe without fear. "I am sure too," he told her. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. I want to spend every day proving that I am worthy of your trust." They held each other as stars wheeled past the observation window. Tomorrow they would face the ceremony. Tomorrow they would make their bond official. But in this moment they were already united, 2 hearts beating as one, preparing to face whatever the universe would bring. The day of the Kalana ceremony arrived with perfect timing. The station had been transformed into something beautiful. The Pilari had grown their living gardens throughout the ceremony hall. Plants glowed with soft bioluminescence, creating an atmosphere like a dream. Humans had added their own touches with traditional decorations and lighting that complemented the Pilari designs. Representatives from 6 different species had arrived to witness the historic event. This would be the first recorded bonding between a human and a Pilari. Many saw it as a symbol of hope for galactic peace and cooperation. Others came simply out of curiosity. Either way, the ceremony hall was packed. Junho spent the morning in preparation with Taik and his human crew. According to Pilari tradition, the bonding partners should not see each other for 12 hours before the ceremony. It was supposed to make the reunion more meaningful. Junho found it difficult. He wanted to see Mina to make sure she was okay, to calm his own nerves. Taik helped Junho dress in his formal uniform. They had modified it slightly to include Pilari ceremonial elements. A sash of living fabric that changed colors with his emotions. It was strange but beautiful. Junho felt awkward wearing something so decorative, but Mina had chosen it for him. "You ready for this?" Taik asked, adjusting the sash. "Yes," Junho said without hesitation. "I have never been more ready for anything." Taik smiled. He had watched Junho transform over the past months. His friend had always been a good man, but Mina had brought out something more. Joy, peace, a sense of belonging. Taik was happy for him. Meanwhile, Mina prepared with Nari and the other Pilari women. They dressed her in traditional bonding robes that had been in their family for generations. The fabric was alive, woven from specially grown fibers that responded to thought and emotion. As Mina's excitement grew, the robes shimmered with brilliant colors. Nari looked at her younger sister with pride and a touch of sadness. Mina was the last of their immediate family. Their parents had died in the HFY War. Nari had raised Mina since she was a child. Now she was giving her sister to a human, trusting that Junho would care for her as families should. "Are you nervous?" Nari asked. Mina shook her head. Her skin patterns showed only joy and anticipation. She was not nervous at all. She knew Junho. She trusted him completely. This ceremony was just making official what her heart had already accepted. The ceremony began at sunset, a time considered sacred by both humans and Pilari. Chief Nari would officiate, following ancient Pilari traditions while incorporating human elements. She stood at the front of the hall wearing her full ceremonial regalia. The patterns on her robes told the story of their people. Junho entered first, walking down the aisle between seats filled with humans and aliens. He had never felt so exposed. Hundreds of eyes watched him, but he kept his head high and his steps steady. This was the most important moment of his life. He would not falter. Then Mina appeared at the entrance. The entire hall fell silent. She looked stunning. The living robes moved around her like water, flowing with every step. Colors danced across the fabric. She seemed to float rather than walk. Despite being so much smaller than everyone else in the room, she commanded attention. Junho felt his breath catch. He had seen Mina every day for months, but in this moment, dressed for their bonding, she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Not because of the robes or the ceremony, because she was choosing him. Of all the possibilities in the galaxy, she had chosen to share her life with him. Mina walked to Junho and looked up at him. Even standing on a small platform built for the ceremony, she only came up to his waist. But when their eyes met, the size difference disappeared. They were equals, partners, two parts of a whole. Nari began the ceremony by speaking in the Pilari language. The translation devices picked up her words and broadcast them to all attendees. She told the story of how the Pilari came to Vertex 7, how Junho had defended them when he had no obligation to do so, how his courage and kindness had earned him a place in Pilari history. Then she switched to English, honoring the human traditions. She spoke of marriage as a sacred bond, a promise to stand together through all challenges, a commitment to build a shared future. Her words resonated with both cultures because the underlying truth was universal. The central part of the ceremony involved the exchange of life lights. These were small bioengineered organisms that would bond with each partner's DNA. Once bonded, the partners would be able to sense each other's presence. In darkness or danger, they would always know where the other was. Nari handed Junho a small crystal container holding his life light. It glowed with Mina's genetic signature, pulsing with colors that matched her skin patterns. Junho held it carefully, marveling at the technology that made such a thing possible. With Nari's guidance, he opened the container and let the organism bond with his hand. It felt warm, alive, comforting. Mina received her life light carrying Junho's genetic signature. When it bonded with her, she gasped softly. She could feel Junho's presence now, not just see him. She could sense his emotions, his steady calm, his deep love for her. It was overwhelming and wonderful. Next came the human elements. Junho had written vows in English and learned them in Pilari as well. He spoke both versions, his voice strong and clear. He promised to protect Mina, to respect her, to be her partner in all things. He promised to honor the trust she placed in him. He promised to love her for all his days. Mina spoke her vows with equal conviction. She promised to stand beside Junho through any storm, to share his burdens and his joys, to bring her full self to their partnership, to love him without reservation or doubt. They exchanged rings, another human tradition that Mina had requested. Junho's ring was sized normally. Mina's was specially made to fit her tiny finger, crafted by Pilari artisans using living crystal. When she slipped it onto Junho's finger, it felt right. When he placed her ring, his huge hands shaking slightly with emotion, it was perfect. Nari spoke the final words of the ceremony. In the name of the Pilari people and the laws of the galaxy, she declared Junho and Mina bonded for life. Partners in all things, family by choice and by sacred oath. The hall erupted in celebration. Humans cheered. Pilari made musical sounds of joy. Representatives from other species showed their approval in various ways. Junho lifted Mina gently and held her close. She wrapped her arms around his neck as best she could, laughing and crying at the same time. The reception that followed was a blend of both cultures. Human music alternated with Pilari songs. Food from Earth sat beside Pilari delicacies. People mixed freely, the barriers between species breaking down in the spirit of celebration. Several ambassadors approached Junho and Nari during the reception. They expressed interest in forming alliances similar to the human-Pilari partnership. The bonding ceremony had shown that cooperation between different species was not just possible, but could be beautiful. Political implications aside, Junho was simply happy to celebrate with Mina. As the evening wore on, Junho and Mina slipped away from the crowd. They returned to the observation deck, their special place. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter than usual. Or maybe that was just how everything looked now that they were officially bonded. Junho sat down and Mina curled up comfortably against his side. She fit perfectly there, her small form warm against him. They did not need to talk. The life lights allowed them to feel each other's contentment, joy, and deep peace. After a while, Mina spoke softly. She thanked Junho for taking a chance on something that seemed impossible, for seeing past her size to who she really was, for choosing love over fear. Junho smiled and gently touched her cheek with one finger. He told her that she had it backwards. She was the one who had taken a chance on him, a rough human soldier with no knowledge of Pilari culture. She had taught him to see the universe differently. She had made him believe in things he never thought possible. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the endless stars. Tomorrow they would return to their duties. Tomorrow the universe would continue spinning with all its challenges and dangers. But tonight they were simply two people who had found each other against all odds. Two hearts now beating as one, a human and his tiny Pilari wife beginning their forever together. 3 days after the battle, Junho received the call he had been expecting. His boss from the mining company was angry. Very angry. Fighting the Krovik had put the station at risk. Corporate headquarters wanted to know why Junho had not followed orders to stay neutral. Junho explained his reasons clearly. The Pilari were refugees. They needed help. He could not stand by and watch innocent people be captured by slavers. He would accept whatever punishment the company decided. His boss went quiet for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. News of the battle had spread across space communication networks. Many species were talking about the brave human captain who defended the small aliens. Some very important people were interested in the story. The company had decided not to punish Junho. In fact, they were giving him a promotion. Junho was surprised but relieved. He could keep his job and continue protecting the Pilari. The station would need to expand to house the refugees properly. The company approved the expansion, seeing it as good publicity. Over the next few weeks, the Pilari began to settle into life on Vertex 7. They set up a small community in one section of the station. Junho was amazed at how quickly they adapted. Despite being refugees who had lost their homeworld, the Pilari remained positive and helpful. Chief Nari met with Junho regularly to discuss the future. Through conversations, Junho learned about Pilari history. Their home planet had been beautiful, covered in forests that glowed at night. The Pilari had lived in harmony with nature for thousands of years. They were masters of biotechnology, able to grow living buildings and create medicines that could cure almost any disease. Then the Krovik came. They wanted Pilari biotechnology for themselves. When the Pilari refused to share their secrets, the Krovik attacked. The war lasted 5 years. The Pilari were peaceful people, not warriors. They lost, many died. The survivors scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Hearing this story made Junho respect the Pilari even more. They had suffered so much but still remained kind and hopeful. He promised Nari that Vertex 7 would be a safe home for as long as they needed it. Mina became a regular visitor to the human sections of the station. She was fascinated by human technology. It was so different from Pilari biotechnology. Humans built machines from metal and circuits. Pilari grew their technology from living cells. Both approaches worked, just in different ways. She spent hours in the engineering bay asking questions and learning. The human engineers loved having her around. Despite being tiny, Mina could squeeze into small spaces to fix things that humans could not reach. Her knowledge of biology also helped solve several technical problems in creative ways. Junho found himself looking forward to seeing Mina each day. She had a way of making even boring work interesting. She asked thoughtful questions and really listened to the answers. When she smiled, the glowing patterns on her skin brightened. It was beautiful in a way Junho had never experienced before. One evening, Mina invited Junho to visit the Pilari section. She wanted to show him something special. Junho had to duck through the doorways since everything was built for people much shorter than him. The Polari living space was amazing. They had grown plants that gave off soft light. The air smelled like flowers. Everything felt peaceful and alive. Mina led him to a small garden. She had created it herself. The plants responded to touch, changing colors when Junho gently brushed them. Mina explained that this was Polari art. They expressed emotions through living things. The garden showed joy, hope, and gratitude. Junho was moved by the gift. He thanked Mina sincerely. She looked up at him with those large eyes and said that he deserved thanks. He had given her people more than shelter. He had given them hope for the future. As weeks passed, Junho noticed that Polari always seemed to be watching when he and Mina talked. Chief Nari especially observed them closely. It made Junho a bit uncomfortable, but he did not understand why they were so interested. Tyke teased Junho about spending so much time with Mina. He joked that Junho had found a girlfriend. Junho denied it quickly. Mina was a friend, nothing more. Besides, she was an alien. The size difference alone made any romantic relationship impossible. Tyke laughed and said that Junho protested too much. But Tyke's words made Junho think. He did enjoy Mina's company more than anyone else's. He looked forward to their conversations. When she laughed at his jokes, it made his whole day better. Was that just friendship? Or was it something more? One day, a formal delegation arrived at the station. They were representatives from other alien species who had heard about the Human-Polari alliance. They wanted to meet Junho and Chief Nari. Some came to offer trade agreements. Others wanted to establish diplomatic relations. During these meetings, Junho realized something important. The Polari were not weak despite their small size. Their biotechnology was extremely valuable. Many species wanted access to it. Chief Nari handled the negotiations with skill and wisdom. She was protecting her people's interests while building new alliances. After one long meeting, Nari asked to speak with Junho privately. They went to the observation deck where they could see the stars. Nari seemed nervous, which was unusual for her. She explained that the Polari Council had been discussing something important. They had been debating for weeks about how to properly honor the debt they owed to Junho. Junho said that no payment was necessary. He had helped because it was right, not because he wanted something in return. But Nari shook her head. In Polari culture, she explained, a life debt was sacred. It must be honored. Junho had saved not just one life, but many lives. This created a debt so large that ordinary payment was not enough. There was an ancient Polari tradition, Nari continued. When someone saved your people, you offered them a bond with your family. This bond united two families together forever. It was the highest honor a Polari could give. The council had decided to offer this bond to Junho. Junho was confused. What kind of bond? Nari took a deep breath and spoke clearly. They wanted to offer Junho a marriage bond with someone from her family, specifically with her sister Mina. Junho felt like the floor had disappeared under his feet. Marriage to Mina? The idea was so unexpected that he could not form words. Nari watched his reaction carefully. She explained that Mina had been watching Junho since the day he saved them. She had seen his character, his kindness, his strength. According to Polari tradition, Mina had the right to request this bond. And she had requested it. Junho's mind spun. He thought about Mina. Yes, he cared about her. Yes, he enjoyed her company. But marriage? To an alien who was barely taller than his knee? How would that even work? What would people think? The practical problem seemed endless. Nari saw his confusion. She said Junho did not need to answer immediately. This was a big decision. He should take time to think about it. But she wanted him to know that Mina was serious. This was not just about tradition or debt. Mina had genuine feelings for Junho. After Nari left, Junho stood alone on the observation deck for a long time. He watched the stars and tried to make sense of his feelings. His life had become very complicated very quickly, and somehow he knew that whatever he decided would change everything.